Dawn, Southern Ocean, at the ragged edge of the Antarctic convergence. A low sun bleeds through a ceiling of slate cloud, turning the swells to hammered copper. The wind carries a mineral scent of ice and the distant thunder of breaking flows. Beneath the surface, where light fractures into cold green shafts, a pod of orcas moves with disciplined precision, black and white forms sliding through the dim like living blades. Their breaths had marked the surface moments ago. Brief explosions of vapor, controlled, unhurried. Apex predators, perfectly adapted to a world of pressure and silence. They spread into a hunting line, each animal holding position by instinct refined over generations. The ocean here is deep beyond measure, a vertical wilderness where sound travels farther than sight. Then, from below, a vibration not heard but felt, a low, resonant pulse climbs through the water column. Ancient in register, powerful enough to unsettle the formation, the pod tightens. Something vast is rising out of the abyss, displacing the calm with a presence older than their lineage, heavier than any prey they have ever mastered. Southern resident and Antarctic ecotype orcas, all belonging to the species Orcinus orca, occupy nearly every ocean on Earth, but the cold, nutrient-rich waters of the Southern Ocean sustain some of the most specialized populations ever documented. Here, the ecosystem is structured by extremes. Seasonal light that vanishes for months, shifting ice that redraws the map each year, and a food web built on explosive blooms of krill. Orcas sit at its apex. Unlike most predators, they are not defined by a single hunting method or prey preference. Distinct ecotypes exhibit inherited cultures. Some specialize in fish, others in seals, penguins, or even other whales. Genetic studies indicate these groups diverged tens of thousands of years ago, developing unique vocal dialects, social traditions, and foraging techniques passed through matrilineal lines. Knowledge, not just instinct, governs survival. Their bodies reflect this ecological dominance. Counter-shaded coloration conceals them from prey above and below. A thick layer of blubber insulates against near-freezing water while storing energy for long hunts. The dorsal fin, rigid and tall in males, stabilizes high-speed pursuits, while the powerful flukes deliver bursts exceeding 50 kilometers per hour. Yet their most formidable adaptation is cognitive. Orcas possess one of the largest brains among non-human animals, with neocortex associated with problem-solving, communication, and memory. Coordinated hunting strategies, wave-washing seals from ice floes, carousel feeding on fish schools, intentional stranding to seize shoreline prey, demonstrate planning and cooperation rarely matched outside primates. This dominance, however, exists within constraints imposed by the environment. The Southern Ocean's productivity fluctuates sharply. In winter, darkness and ice compress prey into narrow margins of open water, forcing predators into competition. In summer, abundance returns, but so do migratory giants, baleen whales traveling thousands of kilometers to feed. These whales, once nearly erased by industrial whaling, are gradually reclaiming ecological space. Their resurgence alters prey dynamics in ways still being studied. For orcas that specialize in hunting marine mammals, the return of large whales presents both opportunity and risk. Immense energy reserves contained within bodies many times their size, but protected by mass, endurance, and sometimes collective defense. Orcas themselves are not a uniform force, but a mosaic of societies. Pods revolve around elder females whose experience guides seasonal movements and prey selection. Calves remain with their mothers for life, creating stable lineages that can persist for decades. Mortality patterns reveal the cost of this structure. The loss of a matriarch can reduce a pod's survival prospects, particularly during years of scarcity. Long-term observational studies in the North Pacific show that post-reproductive females play a crucial role in leading groups to food during lean periods, suggesting that cultural memory is as vital as physical strength. In this layered system, the concept of invincibility has no biological meaning. Even apex predators operate within limits of energy, injury risk, and environmental change. A single broken tooth can impair hunting efficiency. A severe wound can mean starvation. The ocean enforces balance through scale and indifference. Below the orca's hunting depth lies another realm entirely, one inhabited by animals evolved for darkness, pressure, and solitude. Some of these species rarely encounter surface predators. When paths do cross, It is not a meeting of mythic forces, but of evolutionary trajectories shaped in isolation over millions of years. Beneath the turbulent surface, the ocean descends into a realm of extremes. Light dwindles rapidly beyond the first 100 meters, leaving a dim, green-tinged twilight that penetrates the upper mesopelagic zone. Here, bioluminescent organisms dominate. Lanternfish flicker like constellations, gelatinous siphonophores drift with ghostly grace, and colossal squid patrol the dark with long, whip-like tentacles. These depths represent a largely untapped reservoir of energy, prey for predators bold enough to dive where pressure crushes and temperature chills. Some orcas exploit the zone opportunistically, capable of dives exceeding 200 meters, occasionally hunting large squid or isolating smaller whales that feed midwater. Yet, most Southern Ocean orcas are surface specialists, adapted to prey concentrated around ice edges, coastal shelves, and floating kelp beds. Their survival is thus a balance between physiological capability and environmental opportunity. Large whales, such as the southern right, Eubulina australis, or mink, Balanopter bonarensis, loom in this system as both food and formidable challenge. An adult southern right can reach 15 meters and weigh over 50 metric tons, immovable fortresses compared to a 6-meter orca. Hunting such prey is rare and fraught with risk. Researchers observing killer whales attacking whales note that pod coordination is essential, and even then, success is uncertain. The dynamic underscores a critical point. Apex predators are not absolute rulers. Evolution has equipped orcas with intelligence, strength, and social cohesion, but the ocean contains adversaries capable of exploiting those same traits. In this context, invincibility is an illusion. Resilience and adaptation dictate survival. Interactions between orcas and these leviathan whales are underdocumented, but increasingly observed in regions like the Ross Sea and South Georgia. Scientists have recorded instances where orcas attempt to separate calves from mothers, using harassment and feints to isolate prey. When the targeted whale is adult-sized, attempts can fail catastrophically. Pods risk injury from defensive strikes, entanglement with ice, or exhaustion. The ocean's physics amplifies these challenges. Turbulent currents, shifting ice flows, and hypothermic conditions all complicate pursuit. Each hunting episode is therefore a negotiation between ambition and caution, shaped by millennia of coevolutionary pressure. Social learning within the pod mitigates some risk. Younger orcas observe elders executing maneuvers, imitating timing and understanding prey behavior. Acoustic studies reveal that hunting calls, sequences of clicks and pulse whistles, coordinate attacks, maintain spacing, and possibly distract prey. These sounds propagate far more efficiently underwater than in air, enabling the pod to operate as a single cognitive entity. Yet, even with this advantage, encounters with Leviathan can be transformative. A single misjudgment can end a chase, damage the pod's cohesion, or redefine future hunting strategy. Documented behavior shows that orcas adjust long-term patterns after high-risk interactions, demonstrating that experience, cultural knowledge, can be as crucial as brute force. The Southern Ocean seasonal rhythm imposes another layer of constraint. Ice coverage expands in winter, compressing prey into channels and polynyas, and retreats in summer, dispersing prey across a broader area. Orcas must navigate this dynamic environment while tracking migratory patterns of seals, penguins, and large whales. Satellite telemetry and dive tag studies indicate that pods may traverse hundreds of kilometers to exploit transient prey aggregations, adjusting tactics in real time. These movements underscore the orca's reliance on both memory and flexibility. The ocean is a complex stage, and apex predators are actors constrained by the physical and biological laws of their environment. In this intricate balance of adaptation, risk, and opportunity, the narrative of invincibility begins to fracture. Apex predators are formidable, but the ocean contains entities by size, speed, or strategic advantage that challenge supremacy. What the orcas perceive as dominance is, in ecological terms, simply competence within a framework of constraint. When the unknown emerges from the depths, it is neither myth nor vengeance, but a test of evolutionary design, of strategy refined over millennia, and of instincts tuned to the calculus of survival. One angle of this encounter lies in the hunting strategies of the orca pod. Unlike solitary predators, orcas operate through coordinated, collective tactics that exploit both physical strength and social intelligence. Each pod functions as a unit, with roles often dictated by age, sex, and experience. Adult males, with robust dorsal fins and greater mass, provide power. Females and subadults manipulate prey movement and maintain formation integrity. During hunts targeting large whales or pinnipeds, orcas employ encirclement, isolation, and harassment techniques. They use synchronized bursts of speed to separate an individual from the group or to push seals into thin ice or shallow water where escape is impossible. Observational studies have documented wave washing, ramming, and tail slaps as highly effective manipulations of prey behavior, demonstrating that physical force is always coupled with cognitive precision. Each strike is calculated, measured, and deliberate. Wasteful aggression is avoided because energy expenditure can dictate survival across lean periods. Another perspective focuses on the pod's intelligence and learning. Orcas are not merely reactive. They anticipate prey behavior, communicate to adapt in real time, and innovate when conventional tactics fail. Pods demonstrate cultural transmission. Younger members observe elders, gradually mastering timing, spacing, and acoustic signaling. Research from the Antarctic Peninsula indicates that hunting vocalizations are context-specific. Distinct patterns coordinate attacks on penguins versus seals versus mid-sized whales. This level of acoustic coordination indicates a complex cognitive architecture capable of mapping environmental variables, predicting prey response, and adjusting group behavior dynamically. Survival depends on this integration of observation, memory, and improvisation, an intelligence honed not in isolation but through social cohesion. The physical adaptations of the orca offer a third angle. Streamlined bodies, reinforced tails, and high-lift pectoral flippers combine with counter-shaded coloration to optimize stealth and propulsion. Eyes adapted to both surface glare and dim underwater light, along with echolocation refined over generations, allow precise location of prey even in visually obscure conditions. This suite of adaptations enables attacks on both swift and massive prey. In particular, the ability to dive to significant depths and sustain pursuit under cold, high-pressure conditions illustrates an evolutionary specialization unmatched in many other predators. Yet, these physical gifts come with limitations. Deep dives impose oxygen debt, fast pursuits generate heat loss, and injuries can compromise pod-wide hunting efficiency. Every action is a calculated balance between advantage and vulnerability. A fourth angle lies in the pod's social structure and cooperative dynamics. Orcas operate in matrilineal pods where relationships are lifelong and social cohesion directly affects hunting success. The eldest females often guide the group, leveraging decades of experience to choose hunting grounds, time attacks, and coordinate dives. Calves and juveniles, while physically less capable, are essential participants. They learn critical skills while providing flexibility in formation and distraction during hunts. Conflict within the pod is rare, suppressed by these long-standing social bonds, but subtle hierarchies govern role assignment. Observational studies show that pods facing high-risk prey, such as large whales, rely on the matriarch's knowledge to mitigate injury, illustrating that culture, memory, and leadership are as vital to survival as physical strength. A fifth perspective emphasizes predator-prey interplay and the moral neutrality of nature. Encounters with larger whales expose the orcas to a stark lesson. Dominance is context-dependent. Large baleen whales possess defensive behaviors, including tail slaps, underwater charges, and group protection of calves. When an orca pod miscalculates, the consequences can be severe: lacerations, broken teeth, or forced retreat. Ecologically, these interactions maintain balance, preventing overpredation and influencing population dynamics across species. The ocean's laws are impartial. Survival is dictated by capability, timing, and risk assessment rather than intention or morality. Apex predators are formidable, but the leviathans of the deep exist as evolutionary equals, forces shaped to resist domination and to assert ecological equilibrium. Finally, environmental pressures provide a sixth angle. The Southern Ocean is a volatile arena. Shifting ice, strong currents, and seasonal prey abundance impose constant adaptation. Orcas must navigate not only the movements of prey, but also physical hazards. Ice flows can conceal seals or impede maneuverability. Sudden storms disrupt hunting patterns, and deep channels concentrate or disperse prey unpredictably. These conditions require both flexibility and foresight. Long-term observational data indicate that pod strategies evolve across seasons, reflecting cumulative learning and adaptation to environmental variability. Success is measured in sustained survival and energy efficiency, not in heroic feats. Each encounter with a larger whale tests these adaptations, revealing both the limits and the sophistication of orca behavior. The water grows darker as the pod approaches the open channel between towering ice floes. Morning light schemes the waves, casting fractured reflections across the black and white bodies moving beneath. The pod tightens a formation, a living phalanx of muscle and instinct, eyes fixed on a distant shadow. A leviathan surfacing slowly, its immense bulk displacing water in long, deliberate undulations. This is a southern right whale, fully grown, its calf swimming nervously alongside. The orcas fan out, each individual assuming a role practiced over generations, some driving the calf toward shallow water, others circling to anticipate any escape. The initial approach is tentative. Orcas emit subtle clicks, reverberations bouncing off ice and water, mapping distance and movement with precision. The leviathan senses the presence below. Its flippers shift with powerful strokes, creating countercurrents that disrupt the pod's coordination. One orca lunges forward, tail slapping the water with controlled force, but the whale reacts, twisting and expelling a geyser of water from its blowhole. The pod momentarily hesitates, a rare break in a practiced rhythm, as the sheer size and defensive capability of the prey asserts itself. Energy expenditure is immediate. Bursts of speed, synchronized maneuvers, precise positioning. Every movement is calculated, yet danger lingers with each decision. The calf panics, darting between the mother and nearby ice. The pod responds, redirecting its line, cutting off escape routes without overcommitting. It is a delicate balance. Press too hard, an orca risks injury from powerful tail or collision with the ice. Hesitate, and the prey escapes. Observations from similar encounters indicate that these hunts can last for hours, with repeated passes exhausting both predator and prey. The ocean itself acts as an arbiter. Currents, cold, and visibility constrain options, forcing both sides to adapt instantaneously. Despite their coordination, the pod encounters resistance unlike any prior hunt. The mother whale dives abruptly, her massive flukes generating currents that separate pod members. One juvenile orca is momentarily isolated, circling in the wake of turbulence. The matriarch signals through low-frequency pulses, drawing the pod back into formation, reinforcing group cohesion. The hunt becomes a complex negotiation of force and strategy, with each participant adjusting to instantaneous shifts in movement, energy, and opportunity. This is not spectacle. It is survival at the edge of physical and cognitive limits, where instinct and experience converge to confront the raw power of evolution embodied in Leviathan. The Leviathan rises again, slower this time, deliberate, its massive body cutting to the surface with minimal effort yet maximum impact. The pod presses closer, coordinated precision, giving way to careful caution. Even apex predators recognize the limits of their reach. One orca approaches from the side, testing distance, flanking the mother while another circles behind the calf. Tail slaps and ramming maneuvers are measured, intended to wear down endurance rather than inflict immediate injury, a strategy observed in long-term studies of orca predation on large whales. The ocean is a stage of perpetual negotiation, power balanced by risk, momentum countered by mass. The mother whale reacts with defensive brilliance. Powerful fluke strokes generate eddies at the buffet attacking orcas, forcing them to adjust trajectory mid-charge. She positions the calf between her body and the ice, exploiting environmental complexity to impede pursuit. The pod responds, not with recklessness, but with synchronized adaptation. Pulsed vocalizations coordinate movements, subtle adjustments maintaining the formation's integrity while minimizing exposure to injury. Each strike, dive, and lateral shift is informed by collective memory and instinct honed over generations. The encounter escalates, tension rising not from drama, but from the very real consequences of miscalculation. Hours pass in this relentless exchange. Energy expenditure peaks for both predator and prey. Oxygen debt accumulates with every deep dive, every burst of speed. Observational evidence from TAG Orcas indicates that such encounters impose measurable physiological stress, yet the pod persists, driven by the combined imperatives of hunger, social cohesion, and learned strategy. The calf, increasingly fatigued, becomes a focal point, an anchor around which the pod's tactics pivot. Patience becomes as vital as strength. The hunt is not a sprint, but a test of endurance and adaptation. Finally, after a series of coordinated passes and near misses, the pod is forced to retreat. The mother whale, fully aware of her own size advantage and the risks of continued engagement, dives with calf in tow, disappearing into deeper channels beyond the reach of the Orcas. Injuries are minimal, but the lesson is profound. The ocean harbors forces that even apex predators cannot dominate. The pod regroups, breathing at the surface in tight formation, movements precise, silent assessment occurring beneath every glance. Experience has been accrued, knowledge passed silently among individuals, but invincibility has been questioned and found wanting. The pod surfaces slowly, breaths punctuating the cold air in rhythmic explosions. Each exhalation is measured, a reminder of the physical toll exacted by hours of pursuit and countercurrent struggle. Flukes ripple, eyes scanning the horizon for signs of opportunity or threat. Observational studies of similar hunts suggest that even when injury is avoided, metabolic depletion is significant. Heart rates elevated, oxygen reserves diminished, and energy stores drawn down to sustain extended bursts of activity. The juveniles, though uninjured, display subtle signs of fatigue, slower coordination in fluke strokes, less precise navigation around ice flows. Even in apex predators, the margin between success and strain is narrow, and the ocean enforces it with relentless impartiality. Social dynamics within the pod immediately reflect the hunt's aftermath. The matriarch remains central, guiding movement and monitoring younger members for signs of exhaustion or distress. Subtle adjustments, positioning, pace, depth, mitigate the cumulative physical toll and ensure cohesion during recovery. Research has demonstrated that orca pods are highly sensitive to individual condition. An impaired member can compromise group efficiency in subsequent hunts, reinforcing the importance of vigilance and care within the social unit. Learning continues, but now it is reinforced by direct experience. The encounter has provided critical data on the limits of their strategy and the capabilities of large whale prey. Ecologically, the interaction has broader implications. The Leviathan's successful defense preserves its calf and maintains the local whale population, which in turn sustains the balance of the Southern Ocean's complex food web. Predation pressure is applied selectively, and the inability to dominate large whales prevents overexploitation. In turn, orcas must adjust tactics, redistribute hunting efforts, and refine strategies for different prey species or environmental conditions. Documented observations indicate that pods frequently shift focus to smaller, more manageable prey after such high-risk encounters, balancing energy expenditure against reward. A dynamic equilibrium shaped by both instinct and environment. Physiologically, the orcas exhibit subtle but measurable consequences. Muscle fatigue, minor abrasions from ice contact, and depleted energy reserves necessitate extended rest and social support. Calves and juveniles benefit from proximity to experienced matriarchs, whose knowledge guides recovery and subsequent movement patterns. Longitudinal studies in Southern Ocean ecotypes indicate that periods following high-intensity hunts are critical for reinforcing social bonds, transferring knowledge, and adjusting collective behavior to environmental cues. In this way, the pod emerges not broken but recalibrated, their cohesion and cultural knowledge strengthened even as individual bodies bear the toll of exertion. The pod drifts in tighter formation as the sun climbs higher, casting fractured light across the waves. Subtle gestures, fin touches, gentle nudges, synchronized turns, reinforced bonds provide reassurance to younger orcas still absorbing the hunt's lessons. Energy reserves are gradually replenished, but the imprint of the encounter remains. Biologists have noted that such experiences, particularly involving prey capable of defending itself with force, leave lasting behavioral marks. Pods adjust hunting depth, spacing, and approach angles for weeks or even months afterward. In essence, the ocean has provided a rigorous tutor, and the orcas have assimilated the lesson across the wider ecosystem. The encounter reverberates silently. The Leviathan's survival maintains a population structure of large whales, ensuring the continued dispersal of nutrients through feeding and excretion, a process vital to the Southern Ocean's productivity. Predatory pressure is applied in a measured, selective manner, preserving ecological balance. For the orcas, this encounter reshapes opportunity. Certain prey are now marked as higher risk, prompting strategic recalibration. Long-term observational studies have shown that repeated high-risk interactions influence pod movement patterns, vocal communication, and social role assignment, reinforcing the centrality of experience and survival. The physical toll is mirrored in subtle behavioral changes. Juveniles remain closer to the matriarch during subsequent hunts. Adults display heightened alertness when approaching large whale prey. These adjustments are not signs of fear, but of prudence, a behavioral refinement guided by observation, memory, and social learning. Minor injuries, though not life-threatening, influence swimming efficiency and energy management. In a system where endurance is as crucial as speed, even small deficits can affect future hunting success, illustrating the delicate balance apex predators must maintain between ambition and caution. Ultimately, the pod emerges from the encounter with a renewed understanding of their environment and the constraints imposed by nature. Their cohesion, intelligence, and skill remain intact, yet tempered by experience. The Southern Ocean has reminded them that supremacy is conditional, that even apex predators operate within ecological and physical limits. The encounter is encoded in movement patterns, hunting decisions, and social interactions, a living record of adaptation and survival. In this way, the aftermath is not loss alone, nor triumph in isolation, but the ongoing negotiation between predator, prey, and environment, a dynamic equilibrium that defines life in the deep. The ocean stretches beyond sight, vast, indifferent, and unyielding. The orca pod glides through fractured light, a testament to evolution, strategy, and endurance. Their bodies, honed by millennia, carry knowledge and strength, yet even they must yield to forces larger than themselves. The Leviathan they encountered is not a villain nor a spectacle. It is a measure of nature's balance, a reminder that dominance is provisional and survival is earned, not assumed. In these waters, life persists through adaptation, cooperation, and constant negotiation with the environment. Apex predator and colossal prey alike operate under the same unflinching laws. Energy must be gained, risk must be managed, and knowledge passed forward. There is no morality here, only consequence. The pods retreat, their regrouping, their renewed vigilance. Speak not of failure, but of resilience. The subtle intelligence that defines survival in a world without guarantees. As the Southern Ocean closes around them, shadows and light playing across waves and ice, the story of the hunt lingers in silence. It is a narrative of endurance, of boundaries tested and understood, of life measured in moments of exertion and insight. The Orcas continue, neither triumphant nor humbled, but aware, a living reflection of the ocean itself. Powerful, precise, and unrelentingly real.